Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the next episode of Amazon FBA Nomads. Today we have a special guest. Gravy, do you want to introduce yourself then? Who are you? What do you do?
Yeah. Okay. So my name's Chris, otherwise known as Gravy, and I sell on Amazon. I do 95% wholesale. Been doing that for the last year and a half in wholesale. Target for the year is 2.75 million in revenue. We did 1.6 last year, and we're just about to hit. Depends when this goes out. If it goes out at the beginning of July, I've probably just hit 1 million for the calendar year already. So we're well on track for it. If it goes out in December, then maybe I've hit it already. You know,
It might go out next week, actually.
Next
Okay.
week.
We're very close to being up to date now.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Well, guys, this is the 16th of June, so by the end of June, I should hit 1 million for the calendar year in wholesale. So yeah, do that, and it's mainly in the toys and games category. And then I've got a small reselling group called the Gravy Train, which started during COVID when everybody was flipping stuff, doing OA and RA. It's mainly an OA group, but it's more of a community rather than a leads group and that.
Yeah.
Just 100 odd members, just helping each other out on Amazon, really.
Let's talk about your wholesale then. So that's pretty interesting. From what I knew, you used to do OA and then you transitioned. Why did you transition?
Yeah. I transitioned. God, it sounds like I had a sex change, doesn't it? I transitioned, started to move away from OA.
Didn't go very well, did it?
No, it didn't. No, it didn't go very well. I'm trying to be a man, and it's not working very well. I think it was because I kind of fell into it when we was doing OA because I was buying stuff from suppliers and I was from retailers, and I was looking at the packaging when I was prepping myself.
Yeah.
And you started to see names of distributors and manufacturers. I just sent a couple of emails. You look back now, it's quite embarrassing about the email content, just off your Hotmail email address or whatever. Just not the way to do it. But I did get a couple of accounts opened and kind of fell into it. And then what really pushed me into it, Gav, was the fact I was running an OA group and I didn't want that conflict of interest with selling against them, against my members on listings that, you know, they've bought these deals and I've also bought them. And you don't want that conflict of fighting for the buy box with people that are subscribing to your service. So I just try to stay out of their way. But, you know, the main reasons now for wholesale is you don't have the order limits most of the time. You can just make fewer transactions and buy deep, obviously cheaper prices, and they actually want to sell to you, which is a big bonus.
Yeah, on the topic of buying, on the topic of buying deep, I saw on Twitter you posted a tweet of like, I think it was like one or two orders wholesale, and was it just like, sorry, one or two SKUs with one wholesaler, and it was like quite a sizable amount.
Yeah,
and I just looked at that and I was pretty envious because I just thought, rather than buying hundreds,
yeah, it is amazing.
Day,
you can
just bought two SKUs and a shit.
Yeah, and it gives you really good benefits being able to buy deep like that. So it's fewer transactions. You don't need as many sourcing staff to find things because you know you can buy deep, and it's just a lot easier to handle the admin and everything as well.
Yeah.
It makes everything so much easier.
Like, how did you get to that point?
Simpler.
Like as with that supplier, obviously you won't want to say too much, but like as a case study, how did you get to the point of deciding to put that much money on like that wholesaler and those items?
Yeah, well, a lot of these have had test orders. You know, if you look at the keeper data, and too many people are fixated on this drops number, and they think 20 drops means 20 sales. Well, we all know it doesn't. I mean, if it's a low BSR item, say if it's below 500 in its category, if it's got 30 drops, that might be 300 sales a month. So a lot of these things you place in test orders, and then when they sell instantly, you're just like, finger in the air. I have 300 more of them. Just keep going like that. So that wasn't like a first order of that supply. That'd be a repeat, bigger order. But it's also a case with wholesale that it is still competitive and you get lots of people doing it. So the best way of making good margins is like clearing whole lines. So you might buy 3 months worth of stock or sometimes more. Because if you can secure the supply, you know what's going to happen to that listing. It's just going to keep going up like that in selling price because no one else can come onto it if you've got everything. But you do need to understand the whole supply and the whole market. So you need to know you're talking to the only distributor really. Or you're talking to
that was going to be my question. Like, how
do you ask them?
There's not going to be able to have stock going in.
Do you ask them like how many other people can get hold of this stock?
Yeah, I try to work backwards, Gav. So if I'm selling certain brands, I'm either dealing with the brand direct or I know who their distributors are. And a lot of them might just have one or two official distributors in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm talking to them, one of them hasn't got the stock and one has, and it's a clearance take all price or something, that's it. You can look around, see what other retailers are selling. If they're all out of stock, you can kind of get the feel, okay, this is an item that's coming to an end. I'd always be very careful with wholesale buying items where your supplier's got 10,000 in stock and every retailer's got loads of stock, because you're just going to find that price is going to crash.
We had something similar recently with wholesale, because I'm getting into wholesale as well, right? And it's a little bit similar, but not quite. So there's a few items that we've been buying. We did the test buy, as you say. Like it says, SAS would say, for example, like 50 sales per month. We sold 30 units in less than a week. So we obviously want to buy more. But then it came to the question of like, okay, why is this product selling so much all of a sudden? And what we found is like on YouTube, there was a teaser trailer for the movie. A trailer came out for the movie, right? So because the trailer came out for the movie, that product just popped. And now there's no stock anywhere. So until like 3 days ago. 3 days ago, stock came back on. We just bought every single unit. It's like 100% ROI. And we're going to be, it looks like for now, we're going to be the only person selling it. So it's like taking advantage of any kind of like stock shortages is like so beneficial. And there's so many different ways as to like how we find those, right? And it's quite interesting how you can pinpoint the increase in sales velocity or the improvement of a keeper graph to like external factors of what's happening outside of Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, there's reasons why people buy things, isn't there? And why demand increases. A big thing with me with toys is TV film, like a cat being strangled. Like film releases, like kids' film releases and TV programs. If you can go and like get an idea what the schedule is for films being released for the year, like I know there's a Barbie film coming up very soon with what's her name in it, the one from Wolf of Wall Street, that blonde woman,
Margot Robbie.
That's her. Yeah,
she's the crazy
Barbie.
Woman,
ugly lady,
real ugly. And I don't know who the guy is. It might be Ryan Reynolds, actually. No, not Ryan. Ryan Gosling. I think he's playing Ken. But you know that Barbie is crazy selling anyway. But that's just the BSR's just going to drop even further when that film comes out.
Do you target this type of stuff then?
I do around films, yeah. But I don't.
It's the same with books.
Yeah.
It's like when the June films came out, all the June books, like you couldn't get hold of them. And then also if like someone on a podcast talks about a certain book, you can see the offers just plummet. And then when someone dies, like when the Queen died, there were loads of books on obviously Queen Lizzie, and they were just got skyrocketing in value. So it is a good opportunity, but it's not, well, with books, it's definitely not something to bank on, because obviously you can't be just like trawling the net for news all the time. But I can imagine it's better for what you guys do.
Yeah. I did a bit of books actually on that. I remember when Eddie Jones got sacked as the England rugby coach. I went and bought a massive amount of these Eddie Jones books, the rugby coach, and they were flying. But people soon get bored of that news, like they get bored of a film. Gradually the BSR rises.
Can I ask a question? So I think I'm trying to think of the process that you go through in order to let's say, for example, you found a product. Now, you talked about the Barbie, for example, but then you also talked about Eddie Jones. Now, your process could be I found a product which is profitable. Then the next stage would be is this product potentially like a movie? Barbie, yes, that's really simple, but Eddie Jones isn't. Is it the case that you go, this product's profitable? Do I search the news on Google, for example, to see is stuff happening? And if it is, then I'll investigate more. Is that do you have a process that you go through to when you might accidentally find a trending topic, should we say? That's what I'm
that's a good question.
What does that look like?
What I tend to do, Tom, is anything that I'm about to buy, I'll always do a Google search of it as well to see what the other retailers are doing. Because you think I'm a retailer, really, an online retailer. I want to see what other stock is available on the market, not just Amazon's price, but other retailers. So when you do that, you often get other little things come up on the side, like news or whatever about something. And it kind of takes you down that rabbit hole. So it's not really a process of me thinking, oh, is there anything in the news about this? But you can generally see if the BSR's, like Gav said, if the BSR's moving unusually, it's getting more and more popular suddenly, or unusually, it never get unusually less popular, would it? Let's be honest, if there's a news story.
Can you create a system of this? Websites will release lists of upcoming films, right? Upcoming trailers.
Yeah,
so you can build a system of that. Yeah, okay. Because it's like, it's so ridiculously profitable. The stuff we had was selling for like 150% ROI.
Yeah.
And we had like £5,000 worth of stock, and it just all sold out immediately. So like, if you have a niche of this and you can systemize it, then you have such like a profitable like area. And you could say it's like it's a seasonality thing, but it's such a niche seasonality. Because when we think of seasonality, we're thinking like December Q4 toys, right? It's summer. But you break it down further, you have a season of selling products within a time frame of a movie being released, or even like CDs or books, and you can make so much money from that.
You could create a really long list of people who are really old and look like they're going to die soon, and then like check the obituaries every day.
Try and influence it somehow, Seth. You've got to be careful of that, haven't
you? Send them hate on Twitter. Send them hate on Twitter. Seth, trust
there's something in this though, guys, where I'm a real advocate for saying to people, like, I do a bit of wholesale mentoring, not a lot, so I don't like too many people knowing all my tricks, etc. But the big thing of it is have an identity and be an expert in your niche, an expert in your category. So if you know what is going on, and you can sign up to what are these online trade sites called? Like, you get a trade magazine, can't you? But you get an online version. I can't remember what they're called. Okay, all the news in your industry, business to business news, you can really get an understanding of what's going on. And I do that with my category. I've got a magazine that I get every single month. Called I'm going to tell you what it's called, actually. It's specific to toys, and it's full of news, movers and shakers, new licensing agreements with different brands, new distributors that have taken on brands. So I've got all this inside info that you don't get just Googling stuff. So if you want to get into wholesale, try and do it in one category, or at most two, and become an expert and get an identity in that category.
Have you ever considered using like some sort of bot, or maybe like a keeper alert, where you have a toy and let's say the BSI improves by like 100% or 50% over the course of like the next 4 or 5 days, alerts you, then you can see why and investigate that, and then see if you can get wholesale leads.
I mean, that'd be amazing if you could blanket like set alerts on 10,000 toys at once. What a tool that would be.
Easy.
Yeah, Seth, how easy is that to do?
Well, just get VA to do it.
No, you could get a software developer to do it for you.
Yeah, there we go. Sure. That wouldn't be too tough.
Makes sense, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, you could do it. But I think, like, by the way, like, your problem, like, I get that, but your problem isn't getting that information. Your problem is you're probably going to get too much information. That's the problem. Yeah. You're bombarded. Like, I'm sure Gravy doesn't sit there for like 15 hours a day going, oh my God, I'm so bored. Like, no, he's actually doing something. Question for you. I want to come back to like process. I love it right now. We talked about like, look at a product, look at the news, for example, see if it's trending. But you also talked about like looking at other suppliers, looking at that, like, do you have a process that you go through? Is that like defined, whereby it's like, okay, for a product that is end of line, these are the steps I check. Like, do you have, because you talked about like, I look at the manufacturer, I look at the other distributors, I see what their listings price are, I look at the retail marketplace. Like, you talked about it. It sounds like you have one in your head, but do you have one written down, defined clearly, and like, and then all the nuances of it?
No, I don't. I don't have one written down, and I really should. Otherwise, it's all in my head. And I'll see what you're thinking, Tom. So you want to outsource this responsibility, teach someone, and outsource it? Not
even that. Like, by the way, like, if I would put it this way, let's say, for example, a supplier right now gave you an end of line product, an offer. Well, the first thing you're saying is like, I'm going to check the manufacturer, I'm going to check all the distributors for it. So it might be the case that, like, number one, do I have all the distributors? So like, maybe what I would do is I'll call the manufacturer up and ask for their distributor list. That's step one. And if I haven't got that in the last 6 months, I'm going to do it again to make sure it is up to date. Number two, or the last year. Number two, I will ask all of those distributors if they can match this price at the quantity, because they might have an unofficial one. And all I'm doing is asking lots of questions, and that's part. And by the way, this is called your due diligence. This isn't like outsourcing. This is like, Gravy has like got an insanely good process, which, by the way, he doesn't reinvent the wheel every time from his head. He has this opportunity. He just follows a set process, and now instead of getting an 80% success rate, he gets a 96% success rate.
Yeah, it's a tough one, mate, because the good deals, they go pretty quick. And
how quick?
If you get people to send out daily price lists, the real good deals are going to be gone within a couple of hours, I'd say. But it depends on stock levels, It really does depend on stock levels. And there's so many nuances as well, Tom. Like, there's one supplier I deal with who they buy stock, they order it in, and then they send you the Amazon link for it. They send daily emails out with the Amazon link. So they're selling to Amazon sellers, and they're happy doing that. But they also get like clearance offers. So these are more of a wholesaler rather than a distributor. They get clearance offers from brands and distributors sent to them, and then they'll send it out to their mailing list and see what interest comes back before they even purchase it. So they're kind of drop shipping it. That really complicates things because you're like, oh, you're trying to negotiate price and they don't even have it yet. So you really want to know who's actually physically got this stock. And if you can't build that picture, you're going to make some big mistakes because they might have 5,000 units, but the actual people they're buying it off of have got 500,000 units. And you get on that list and there's just so many other sellers on there.
I would still say, like, even in that situation, because it's such a new, like, it's varied, like, you've got so many questions that need to answering. And I think, like, if it was me, like, I'd want to go down the route of, like, I have a process that helps me solve those problems as quickly and efficiently as possible. And, it's like sourcing, isn't it? Like, step one, is it the same product? Step two, am I eligible to sell it? Step three, FBA. If the answer is no to any of them, you don't even go any further.
Yeah.
Like, we all like to look at the Keeper chart, but, like, you don't go to Keeper before you've done that. And it's the same thing with you in, like, this wholesale, the analysis. Like, what are the most fundamental checks that you should do first before we even jump into the detail?
I'll definitely say the stock quantity is the big one. If it's selling 100 a month and they've got 5,000, I'm not interested in buying any of it. I want to secure all of the stock or none of it.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing for
4
you,
months worth, I might get it.
The first question is how much have you got available that I can buy?
And I don't think people really ask that, Tom. I really don't. I think you're so used to doing OA and not knowing what stock's available. You just see the current selling situation, buy it, and then surprised when it drops. And loads of other sellers buy the same amount as you. But if you can be sure, okay, you got 300 units, you're selling 150 a month, I'll buy them all. You just know.
I'm just thinking something outside the box. I'm going to say it here. It's a bit crazy. Write a rough process of the key metrics that you need to check. Stock, availability, like what's the lead time on it? Like, there's just the core ones. You could then, I'm just going to say this is really a bit weird. You could then do your Gmail, where you get the email from, to Zapier, send it to ChatGTP to format a response back, asking these questions in the right answer, or reading the email for it and then respond and send it straight back.
I need to get in with this AI stuff. I've not really done anything with it. It's really impressive, all of it.
You could literally
use it a lot, Tom.
We use it a lot in Fast Track FBA, but the application is quite interesting. But you could, in theory, within 30 seconds of getting an email, you could pre-qualify the majority of the key metrics before you've even had a chance to check it automatically, which would then make the next analysis so much quicker.
What's your average wholesale order? I'm kind of like jumping the topic here a little bit.
That's fine, carry on.
No, let's have a look, mate.
Also, another question I have is, do you only buy from like wholesaler distributors, or do you ever go like direct to a brand? Because I can imagine with toys it's difficult because you wouldn't necessarily go to like Mattel or is it Hasbro? Or
I mean those two are very, very, very difficult getting with. You're right, Seth. But yeah,
you need to spend like $1 million like a month or something like that. Ridiculous.
Well, but Mattel's interesting. Mattel's opening order value needs to be 50,000, which isn't that bad. But the big thing with Mattel is you need 114k credit rating, which I mean that's going to take years to get that as a credit rating. 114,000. That's crazy. But yeah,
to add on to that, they'll only deal with specific people. And they don't necessarily like Amazon sellers either.
No, you need a website.
Right.
You need a website and a warehouse and a big warehouse.
Yeah, probably.
If you made,
I asked for an account with them.
If you made a Shopify store and made it look quite sexy and look like you had loads of products on it, it could just be fake. Do you reckon they'd still?
No.
It's got to be functioning.
Vet it. All right.
Yeah, they'll probably check it.
Yeah, I have a mate I think he's pretty high up there now, and he was like, yeah, it'll be so difficult for you to get an account. It's like, you have to spend so much money, you need a warehouse. But it's also the type of seller that you are as well. I don't believe that they're particularly keen on if you do anything related to Amazon selling.
No, I mean, the big brands, it's only you're going to be very disappointed anyway opening accounts direct with brands because they don't really have prices that are, unless it's clearance, they don't really have prices leaving you a lot of room to make much money. Like there's a big toy brand I deal with direct. So yeah, Seth, in answer to your question, there's 2 or 3 brands I deal with direct and I regularly place orders with. One of them's a very well-known brand, another one not so well-known, and a third one's like a bit in the middle. But you don't get that much better returns for it because they don't send out clearance offers much. They tend to just give that to the wholesalers. The wholesalers are the ones who have got all that clearance stock, and then you could buy the clearance stock off the wholesaler.
You would need exclusivity then. You need like Amazon exclusivity to make it worth it.
Yes, and that's just not going to happen because Amazon want to sell on it. But looking at average orders, I don't have average orders, but I can tell you that last month I spent 177,000 on stock, and that was with 19 suppliers. You can take.
What, you spend so much? How do you spend so much money? Like, what's your credit allowances? How much money do you have?
Well, how much money do you
have?
If you look at
what's your PIN number?
Yeah.
No, because my wholesale, we spend about 70 to 80k a month, and it's like I just don't have enough money to keep pumping into it. I just need more money.
I've got 135 grand of credit across all my suppliers that I'm allowed.
Do you leverage it properly?
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, there's people that I'm constantly at the limit, and I'm constantly saying to them, "Need to increase the limit. Need to increase the limit." But yeah, you just got to be careful because your revenue's got to fall in line with what you're spending. Otherwise, you find yourself in a bit of trouble, don't you?
So you're paying your suppliers like 30 days after, like bang on kind of thing. Yeah.
Some of them, like majority of them, are 30 days. Some of them are 15, which are, I mean, it's nearly not worth it.
We have a wholesaler.
30 days end of month the best.
They have 90-day terms, but they charge me 2% extra, which
I wouldn't do it.
For me is like super favorable. Like for me, that's very good, right? Because my days in inventory is 30 days. So I can sell out my entire inventory base in about 30 days for our wholesale. But it's like, I just need like an extra 100 or 200k. And that'd be perfect.
That's pretty good. You're like
really careful.
You're like, 2% over a quarter? So what's that, 8% a year, annualized interest? That's all right.
It's not bad, yeah.
Yeah, like if your stock sells super quick and it's pretty stable, like you got good items, I think it's absolutely fine.
Yeah. I don't know, I like to get in the pattern.
Books, but you just need to know you're getting good ROI and they're actually going to sell. But
I do find it interesting. I do think wholesale ROI is definitely not as low as people think it is. Like it's the same as aware. There's niches within wholesale that you can do that have varying levels of barrier to entry, and you can make so much money on like a specific one that's a higher barrier to entry, right? Like for example, the toy thing, the seasonality of the toys for the movies. That's a high barrier to entry because very few people would do something like that and build a system for it.
No. I mean, you've got to have some kind of interest, I think, in what you're doing, and interest to understand it.
Money.
And
good margins is enough interest for me, mate.
But there is an element of... I remember trying to source OA stuff back in the time, and I was trying to source all the beauty stuff, because everybody's doing beauty stuff. And I used to fall asleep at the computer looking through Keeper and looking through websites and checking the mascara and the 30 mil versus 15 mil. I was falling asleep. But if with the toys thing and that, I don't know if it's just the colours and the characters. It's just, maybe it's tapping into your childhood or something, but it's just a bit more engaging, I find. And I think if you can find something that you actually have an interest in, like I know people who do sportswear stuff because they're really into sports stuff.
Yeah.
And they get really good at it. I think that helps.
No, I so agree with that, because if you're interested in the subject itself, you're going to put more time and effort into it. And for me, I actually quite enjoy doing beauty items. I really enjoy it. Same as supplements. Like I'm pretty clued up. No, but I'm pretty clued up like what all the ingredients are. I'd be quite interested in making my own formulations of beauty products in the future. That'd be quite interesting to do, especially supplements. I'd be interested in making my own supplements as well. That'd be fun. But yeah, it's like I've got an interest in that, so I'm willing to go further than other people are. For sure.
Yeah.
But then shoes, I'm not really that interested in it. I just leave it at about 120k a month. I'm kind of happy with that. It's fine.
I don't know how you deal with the returns, mate. Honestly,
just don't look, close your eyes, mate. Yeah, it pisses me off. It's so annoying. Even if the margin is good, it's just even if your net margin at the end of the month is really good, it still annoys me just seeing like 300 returns or something. So insane.
Crazy. It's not just a return, it's the fact that they could be different size, could be someone switched them around. It could be so many things wrong.
The supplier even sends you the wrong sizes sometimes. They'll send you like what the left shoe is the right size, the right shoe is a different size or a different colour. So yeah, it's a lot of work. But I have two VAs who handle it super well. But I'm pretty, I'd say like almost obsessed with wholesale now. Like, we're hitting small and light so hard. So hard.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah. Was it 12 quid out there, isn't it?
$12, yeah.
$12.
Last week,
Yeah.
our prep center done 4,500 units. So good.
In a week.
Yeah. Yeah, we're giving them work to do, man, for sure.
Do they discount you a lot on the small and light stuff?
Yeah.
Are you commingling or are you stickering everything?
Stickering everything.
Fun.
I love it. Like it's quite volatile because like a 10% reduction in price has such a massive hit. But our average ROI is so high. It's so high, man. It's crazy.
What
Gav,
percentage
you just
of
love
people?
a bit of risk.
Sorry.
You just love risk.
That's not
It's
it.
commendable. But sorry,
What's
I
up,
cut you off,
Gravy?
Chris.
You're right, mate. What percentage of people do you reckon who sell on small and light listings actually understand the small and light enrolling criteria and actually know it exists?
Well, if you use SaaS, it just tells you it's fine.
Yeah, but think about the amount of sellers that are on there that just don't even know what small and light is, Gav. I just wonder what percentage of people just sell it with normal fees.
So I'm going to say no because looking at my competition, most of my competition got quite high reviews. So I think newer sellers don't want to buy items for $1 because they see it as a waste of their time. They don't see it as a volume game because they don't have that experience yet. So it's like something like most USA sellers, they're going to shoes. They're going to the hardest category first, just because it's like easy to get higher revenue.
No, it looks really good. They just don't understand the return rates. But
Yeah.
I'd say the same thing on like I remember in the UK, the amount of 0% VAT items I was selling on. I was looking at the competition. I was like, why have you got VAT turned on? It's so common.
It's the same with wholesale as well, Tom. That people they use this scanning software like your Scan Unlimited or your Source Mode or your Tactical Arbitrage. They chuck a spreadsheet into it, add on VAT to it, and don't even consider the fact that you've got a quarter of that spreadsheet is actually 0% VAT items. So their sourcing, their scanning tool filters the ROI out for all those items because it doesn't know they're 0%. So it's lazy sourcing, really. Small, light, and 0% VAT. There are opportunities there, definitely.
Dude, but that's the thing in life. People are just lazy, and like by the way, that's why you can make profit because you're not lazy, and you have ways of detecting and solving that problem, which I think is great. Well done to you. You're enjoying it.
All right, guys. Any last final talks on wholesale? Let's move on to the next one because we've been talking about wholesale for like 30 minutes now.
What is the next one?
Okay.
I just wanted to ask another question for you, Chris. Because
no, finished. We're moving on.
Yeah, fuck off, mate.
No, it's not about wholesale actually. It's just
Gavin. This is a family program.
Did you say you're reading Profit First?
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
I wanted to ask
not reading. I listened to it because trying to do so many things at once, and you can stick your ears in. I take it in better listening to it, to be honest. And if it's narrated well, like the guy who wrote it, Michael, whatever his name is, Polish name, can't think of his surname. He actually narrates it on Audible.
Oh, that's good.
And it's really good. It's really engaging. He's quite a funny guy. So it went in really well. And I listened to it all in a day and a bit, like 7 hours of it. And I've started actually implementing it into my business now because you know what the problem is? We spend so much time trying to get profit on that bottom line. We don't actually try and get physical cash profit into our own hands. Or
what is the basic premise? I know you kind of just said it there, but what is the basic premise of the book in like?
What you do is rather than from a bookkeeping and accounting point of view, work out how much is on paper everywhere. What you do is when you get income into the business, i.e. disbursement from Amazon, is you take a percentage of that physical cash and put it into different pots immediately. That's what you do. So that's what I've got for tax. That's what I've got for profit for the business, i.e. it could be quarterly bonus. Like you could split some of it for quarterly bonus for the owners. And then you have a percentage which is paying yourself as an employee, and then you have a percentage for operating expenses. So I've done all sorts of numbers, and it's came out as I need 22% to cover everything other than inventory. So I can put profit aside, I could put some pay aside, I could put tax aside to cover corporation tax, etc. I could pay all expenses, and then that's how much I've got to spend on stock. So the idea is you're actually controlling what you're spending, and you've got profit put in a pot somewhere. So you're supposed to open 2 savings accounts, business savings accounts, instant access ones, move the profit into there twice a month, leave it in there, and do the same with tax. So you've got these different bank accounts. And then if you can utilize like a bank that lets you open multiple accounts, then you're supposed to move these 5 different pots it's difficult in the UK because not many banks say, yeah, you can have 5 bank accounts.
Is it Starling?
You usually get like 2, don't you? You get like one which has got like a really shy interest on it, and then you just get
Tom, you're right. Starling do spaces. They don't let you have more than one account. And Starling spaces, you can't actually. They don't give you an account number and a sort code. It's just a portion of that existing account, so you can't pay any bills off of it.
The idea we have is like, especially us, we hold a lot of money in bank accounts, don't we? Which is like, this week we're going to spend something. But the idea is like, as that money comes in, you get it out of sight, out of mind.
Yes.
That's the whole concept. Because how many times do we look at a bank account and feel good, but when we look at the numbers, you're like, it's not that good.
It's all based on the fact that we're emotional.
Yeah,
no, you can't, mate.
That's the hard part.
You can't, and I've just bought the there's like an add-on like Profit First for e-commerce sellers, which I'm going to read as well by a lady who wrote that, and I'm interested to see what variants they're putting on it. You got to think, why do we want growth? We want growth so we can eventually earn more profit, but we need to reward ourselves somewhat and reward the business for how well it's doing and make sure we do something with that profit. But I use Amazon loans, right? And I don't want to use loans anymore. I don't want to borrow. Like mine's up to like 250 grand. That's the offers now. You start to get into dangerous territory.
I got 700 nearly.
Yeah, but do you not feel a bit like
I'm paying it off?
Things, things shouldn't go wrong. But if they did, is that equity in my house going to cover that? No, it's not. No chance.
Brevi, understand one thing. If everything went wrong, there is no extradition treaty with Vietnam.
That's why I spent 2 years. That's why I spent 2 years there. Building my business. All on the line.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, you would be screwed if your seller account got banned.
Coming back to the point, like, and Gavin, I really understand what you're saying. By the way, Gavin and I were actually talking about this last night when we popped round. And by the way, the same kind of concept got talked about within Tony Robbins' event that I went to, and he said if there's one thing you take away from this entire event, is that every single industry, every single market will have a 70% decline pretty much at some point over a 15-year period, without fail. It happens across, Amazon, Bitcoin, everything, like all the stuff that we kind of do. And he said if there's one thing you do every single month, just take a small proportion of the money out of the business and put it somewhere else. And like literally that very, like after he said that, I messaged my admin and I was like, right, 8% of net profits every month I want out of the business.
That's it.
That was my, my what do you call it? My profit first analogy. And so like, okay, I'm reinvesting everything else, but like that money I'm not allowed to put back in again. Don't care. And I've been really grateful for that. I really have.
Yeah, I think it's sensible to do that. And, we all want to grow, but you got to be, once you get to a certain point, you got to be sensible with money, I think.
I was thinking about
I'm
this actually.
implementing it.
It's like what are the risks? The risks is so high now to completely gung-ho in it all the time with maximum loans. Because it's like, if I risk everything, I'd have to go back to getting a job, which would then be an absolute pain in the ass, don't want to do. So it's like, do I then slow down on the level of risk? Or do I just keep the pace it's going at? At the moment, I'm thinking more risk.
The problem is, right, we hold assets, which is stock. Yeah. And if your stock holding is way above your liabilities, you think you're fine. But the reality is if your account got closed and no revenue is coming in, how do you release or liquidate that stock?
At the value.
And get that money back? Yeah. It's not very liquid, is it?
And one's if you just like, Michael Gravy's like got his amazing thing. And by the way, he's bought like 10 lines or something, he's put 100K into it, 10K each, not too much. And all of a sudden, Amazon's coming and selling it below cost with like infinite amount of stock. You're like, I've just taken a 50K loss. And that's no small chunk.
Yeah, it goes into the whole thing of liquidating. And people don't want to lose money, do they? They don't want to sell things at a loss. But sometimes you got to bite the bullet and realise if I don't get out now, I'm going to get out for a bigger loss in a couple of months' time.
Sunk cost fallacy.
Like selling for a loss.
Yeah, I don't see why people are so phased about that. If you've got like hundreds of SKUs and only a few of them you're losing money on, just get rid, isn't it?
It's behavioural economics.
Simple.
It's behavioural economics. Sunk cost fallacy. Really common. We do it all the time. It's kind of like a really good analogy is you go for a 3-course meal. You pay for the buffet, the 3-course meal, for example. You have the starter, it's massive. You have the main, it's absolutely massive. And you're completely stuffed. You can't eat anything else. But what do? You still order the bloody dessert, don't you? Yeah, and you still put a mouthful in your mouth. Why? Because you paid for it, even though you know you're going to make yourself feel sick because you paid for it.
Yeah, bottomless brunch. You're going to be drinking all that Prosecco, aren't you?
And you're going to feel horrible. But I paid for it, so I'm getting my money's worth. We're stupid.
Or competitive. I think it's competitive.
Competitive eating.
Yeah, I just don't want to lose. I'm going to eat more. What's the next topic? Oh, how's the weather in the UK?
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's all right. I actually had my heating on by accident earlier. I didn't realise. And it was so hot anyway in here. And realised I had my heating on for 2 hours. But it's probably about 28 degrees, I reckon.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
What temperature do you set your heating at, mate?
No, the fucking weather here is 28 degrees. With the heating on as well.
Yeah, but
helps.
Your heating turns on when it gets too cold.
No, I don't have a thermostat. This is an old house. Yeah,
I thought of just installing one. You probably save yourself a lot of money.
On Monday, I'm getting one of those Hive things installed. Yeah. But it's warm. It's really warm here. It's good. The grass is orange, which is a good sign.
Dying. The grass is dying.
Yeah.
But
I'm actually away in. Oh, is it? Well, I think it's the same temperature in Ibiza as it is in here, and I'm in Ibiza next week.
So I'm here. It's hitting like what, 35 degrees?
No, it's like 32. It's hotter than London.
30, 33. Yeah. It's like, but at night it's still like 27, 28. It's impossible.
My bedroom's 26 at night time.
So hot. So you said you're going to Ibiza
next week? Yeah, for a week. It's weird that I'm staying in the W Hotel. They got one in Barcelona, haven't they? That big sail.
Yeah, one in London.
Sail ship state. Yeah. I don't like the look of the one in London. It's not
that great. I stayed there. It's all right. But...
It looks a bit Instagrammers, like that's kind of
it's a little bit like that.
Yeah.
Old man Gravy over here.
Tom doing a Facebook story. It looks like one of them. But I'm staying at the W Hotel in Ibiza, which is in Santa Elua, which is like a quieter area. And one of the lads I'm wholesale mentoring, would you believe, is staying there with his girlfriend in the hotel next door the same time I'm going, which is ridiculous. The odds on that, considering I'm mentoring 3 people, and he's staying. It's so weird. So I'm going to meet him, have a drink while his missus is getting ready or something, and see what happens. We've got a VIP area booked at Ocean Beach one day, so that'd be interesting. DJ Spoonie's in the house.
See what happens, mate. It's Ibiza. There's only one thing that happens in Ibiza, and it's debauchery.
My missus is going there next month, so don't want to hear that from you.
Apparently, Seth is coming out with us in London tomorrow, though. We talked about bottomless brunches, and I think we tried to book into one, Seth, but we couldn't get in. Is it called Tempers or something like that? Temples?
You'll have to DM me the plan on Twitter, and I'll be there.
Good man.
That's interesting.
Proper seller.
All right, guys. Do we have any more topics that we want to discuss, or can we just close this out now? I'm so hungry.
Yeah, I think we're good. Appreciate you coming on, Chris.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. It's good to talk about wholesale without having to be the interviewer,
I don't get it. Anyway, thanks for joining. Thanks, everybody else. This is Amazon FBA Nomads.
Stay safe, guys. Bye.
Peace out.
Cheers. Bye-bye.